And here we go. Welcome, Circling Seattle Sports Podcast, Seattle interview series number 7. I've got Race Porter here, O'Day alum, Washington Husky. Appreciate having you on. I know you do. You wear more hats than just O'Day and UW, which will be talked about here a little bit later. But how you doing? How things been? What have you been up to? Since the season.
Yeah, since the season, we had a nice little break. I got to zip down to Palm Springs, feel the sun for a little bit. It's never bad. And then once we got back up here, we started training again. I think near the end of January, we picked back up. And ever since then, we've just been training, lifting pretty heavy, working on our bodies a lot, our speed, all that stuff, football stuff. And then about a couple weeks ago, we started up OTAs again, which has been a lot of fun. That's practice with no football. So that's always fun, just getting the vibe back and, feeling everybody on the same field. There's just a certain energy to that. That's always fun. So we were doing that. And then, outside of that, I've just been working on my brand, Homs. I'm sure we'll kind of go over that a little more, but it's always fun just kind of looking at new styles, working with the manufacturing side of it, just like all the different things that go into a business, just kind of trying to learn as well as I can, all that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, that's about it.
keeping yourself busy, huh?
Trying to, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's I'll talk about it a little bit later. I don't want to get too off track, but we're gonna start back to, our alma mater here. So it's been a decent amount of time. I mean, since both of our freshman years, right? I mean, mine a little bit closer since, but how would you say that you've changed since freshman year, since you stepped into those halls? Uh, Obviously they've remodeled, but
Mhm.
what do you think if you were to look back at yourself back then? What would you say is different about yourself if you were to pick, if there's
Mm.
anything that stands out to you?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind would be like my support group. So like way back then, early on, it was still like I had some really good friends from grade school, but I don't think I had met people that I really surrounded myself with and would, because once you get to that level, it's not so much just you and your parents anymore. You're out on your own a lot more, and so you got to really have a good group around you. And so I would just say like the biggest difference was looking back, just saying like, okay, now I know who my group is. Like I know who to go to. I know who's got me. But I think all of that stuff does come with time. So if it was a scenario where I was going back and telling myself something, it'd probably just be like really pay attention to who you kind of hang out with, who you are around. Because I think a lot of that shapes you. When you're just a young kid trying to figure out who you are. It's good to surround yourself with people that you kind of resonate with and kind of you feel the most yourself with.
Yeah, I
So
think high school kind of does that. At least like I remember when I was seeing it, that like you were saying with the support group, that even changes throughout those 4 years,
mhm.
just from uh probably, at least in my experience, it kind of you kind of could tell who was there. At least a couple of guys from first 2 years obviously left and did their own things, and even some guys came in. So it was, yeah, that I think that's a good point. Um, what would you say O'Day has helped you with, as overall, if you would like to pick anything out from that?
Oh man, I would just say, I mean, as corny as it sounds, to come back to the brotherhood, it's just like I can't tell you how supportive and strong of a community I feel like, especially the kids from my class. I see an order will pop up left and right. Some of my friends, and it's just like I haven't talked to them, I haven't heard from them, but it's just like I feel like we support each other no matter what moving forward. The thing that takes you beyond just the 4 years you have is that brotherhood, and I feel like anyone, even even not just the class, just anyone who it's always oh day class of whatever, like it's something you're proud about, and you share that with certain people, and that's just something that makes the bond a little deeper. And I think that's what really O'Day taught me and gave me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, that it's funny you say that because whenever people ask me that same thing, it's like, well, everybody kind of knows about the brotherhood idea, but I mean, it wasn't some just shtick, at least to me.
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
made sense to me and it was legitimate to me. So,
Yeah.
uh, do you have a few favorite memories that you'd want to pick out? Because I know it's 4 years and so much happens in those 4 years. But if there's anything that was defining to you, whether it was Oh, were you? Did you guys have house games at the time, or was that a
We
little bit
were
after?
we were the first, yeah, we were when it was starting up, yeah. That's definitely fun. Okay, yeah, I can think of 2 things. I can think of, like, a funny one and a more serious one. I'd say a funny one was at the house games. I remember my team made it to the championship basketball game, and I dunked, and we ended up winning, and when I dunked, everyone went crazy, and it was just like, this is really just a period of school right now. Like, and
Yeah.
we're playing a basketball game, and people are going crazy. Like, I'm sure you know how funny that stuff can
God.
be. And then my other one would be probably our basketball team going to the state championship my senior year. That's all. Anytime you go to the state championship, no matter what happens or how it unfolds, that's a big deal. It's such a loaded state with good teams, and I think shout out to Quinn and Ben. We were the three amigos during that run. But just that semifinals game was so awesome. And then I played some of my friend or one of my good friends, Sam Cunliffe. He obviously went to O'Day. We played him in the championship. So it's just fun to see that kind of stuff go full circle. And I played with Sam at Blanchette too for a little bit. Like it's just you just want nothing but the best for these people because you grew up with them. So that was an awesome experience. But yeah, I'd say those are my two.
Yeah, no, just I remember coming in, and you were right. Whenever we would have whether it's house football, I even got my Kilkenny sticker here.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Um, just thinking I was like, this is part of class. Well, this is part of the school day. Like,
Hmm.
just ridiculous. This one's a little bit not as we go from talking about the importance of brotherhood. We go to favorite place to eat around a day. That was always the thing. People, is what was your go-to spot?
I'm I don't think I can pick one. I gotta go with like 3 or 4 to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm going Yosh, obviously, Blue Water,
Yep.
Piroshki, and the sandwich shop. I'm blanking. Is it George's?
George's. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
George's.
Yeah.
I'm going with those ones.
It's hard to pick one because dudes would always, it's like they'd mix it up, and I kind of stick to the same thing. I'd go to Yosh, but
Yosh, yeah.
that's always like it's always where you were gonna go, and that I always I miss it sometimes. But
Oh, of course.
do you
Simple
have a
taste.
favorite person from your no fun favorite? That's no funniest person
Funniest
from your
person.
time at O'Day?
Funniest person. There were some dudes who were jokes in my class. I don't know if I can go funniest. Like I said, I'll go. My best friend Ben Johnson was hilarious. We were always cracking jokes. I think Julius McDade was up there. He was
Juice.
always cracking jokes. So many dudes, man. But yeah, those would be my two. Always laughing, bro.
How would you describe? Well, you talked about it a little bit, right? But how would you describe the brotherhood in your own words if someone put you on the spot and asked for your own definition of
Hmm.
the O'Day brotherhood?
I would say to take it further, obviously, like we know what it means, just the brotherhood, because like we've been through it. But if I had to elaborate on that, I would just say, kind of like I said earlier, it's a group. It's more than just a brotherhood. It's a family that you have that will support you no matter what. You know what I mean? Like in whatever industry, because it's such a melting pot of so many different people with so many different backgrounds, which I think
Hmm.
is amazing. It just opens you up to whole new perspectives, first of all, while you're there. And then beyond that, people are so connected in so many different categories and areas after O'Day. You just feel like no matter where you're at or like what you need, your family's got you at the end of the day, especially if you stay in touch. And everyone's down to stay in touch. I've talked to so many different dudes, and it's all, the Facebook groups and all that stuff. Like, it's just people who got each other's backs forever. Like there's no strings attached, nothing needed to be said. It's just like, yep, you're from O'Day, I got you. Period. It's just simple.
Just yeah. I think you did a good job there of really putting it into words. So if I were to hire you to be the one of the guys at open house and someone was unsure if they were gonna, I don't know if I want to go to a day and it's all boys or whatever, and I'm just not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a pitch? Could you come up with a pitch? if they were, they were kind of on the fence,
Mhm.
weren't sure.
Yeah, I feel like I would be a great example for someone, if I was trying to tell someone to go to O'Day, obviously it's whatever works best for you and everyone's an individual. But from my own experience, I went my freshman year. I transferred out and I ended up going to Blanchette. There were some family reasons involved, excuse me. But I got to see something else and then I ended up going back to O'Day. And in my experience, having seen the both, I just feel like O'Day, I would tell someone's parents or tell the person that was looking at going there, it's just a place where you figure out who you are so much faster than anywhere else. There's no distractions. It's like a strong group of people around you, and the teachers, everyone that's up top is all supportive and wants you to be a great person, wants to help you get to there. There's no distractions, and I'm not saying girls can be distractions for young men, but it's definitely an environment that allows you to just be yourself. And that's why I think so many people have such a great time at O'Day is you're with your bros like that. And you're chilling with your bros at school, and that's just how it feels. And you're working towards that best version of yourself around a lot of the people that are doing the same thing, and a great group of teachers and mentors that want you to succeed. So that's what I would say. And I'm not knocking Blanchette or saying that that doesn't happen there, but I wanted the traditional high school experience and I thought it would be better. I got it and I realized it wasn't better for me. And so that's what I would say to people.
Oh yeah, no, I feel like, yeah, I think you put it right. You had got to experience a difference, and you saw it and you were able to compare the two. And like you said, it's for some people, obviously it doesn't work out for them. They leave, and that's, there's no knock against them. But um, I think, like you said, they do. I always put it as you're with your bros. That's kind of how I know it, and then that's
Mhm.
how it felt and what was the truth to me. So um, I think you put it well. Did you have a favorite sport in high school outside of football? Because you spoke about playing basketball,
Mhm.
competed in hurdles, high and long jump, 4x100 meter relay. So you
Mhm.
you were keeping yourself busy back then too. So
Definitely.
was there anyone that, definite favorite? I mean, maybe.
I think definite favorite. Nah, I couldn't put one up. I'd say probably my favorite was track. Track was unbelievable. That was when I started my friendship with Miles, obviously. So that was super fun. We were just always that's the other thing about track is it's like it's simple events and you go out there and work, but at the end of the day, you're just having fun out there. You take the bus to West Seattle, it's beautiful outside, you're running around, joking around, the girls from Holy Names are there. Um, and so it's just a fun time. But I did have some really fun memories from freshman year golf team. My big bro David Fanua, Michael Shalom, they were both seniors. I had grown up golfing with them, so that was a ton of fun. Not a whole lot of people know that I golfed before I started playing football, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, I gotta say those days, even back with Jack Floor, I remember Jack and Miles would wrestle at track practice, and Mr. Butork would just be like, "Whatever, you guys figure it out." He wouldn't even care. It was so funny.
Speaking of our friend Miles, is there a time, anything that, you know, from O'Day at least, is
Mhm.
there a favorite moment you have with Miles back then?
Um, he would be mad that I'm telling a story like this, but I would say it's a proud bro moment. I would say my favorite moment from me and his friendship in high school was the his senior year state track meet, the 100-meter dash final. I was watching the race from up in the stands, and he was running against Ray Wells, who from Beach, lightning fast. He's at Wazoo running track right now. He's like famous for doing all these videos,
Oh,
jumping over
damn.
stuff. Um, and I was up top with my dad, and right before the race, Miles was like, "I'm gonna go get it," and I was like, "Yep," and I was like, "Yeah, he's gonna win." And then it was like a photo finish, like unbelievable photo finish, and there was like a scoreboard that showed all the times right next to the finish line. So all the dudes turned around and ran back to it and waited. And I knew he won from up in the stands, and then I really knew because I looked down and he didn't even go over and look at the scoreboard because he knew he won. And then they announced it, and he was just chilling over on the other side. And I just remember that moment just being like, that's my dude. Like that's one of the coolest things I've seen. Not just in the sporting realm, just ever, period. And that's when I was like, I freaking respect this dude, and I'm so pumped that I can be friends with him. So I would say that was the moment.
Yeah, it was really cool talking to Miles because he was my first interview, and I remembered it was I think we were playing. It was Paulo and the guys were playing East Side down at Seattle U, and Miles walked by. I was like, shoot, because I was trying to start doing interviews. I was like, shoot, I gotta go talk to this guy,
Hmm.
and he was super chill about it, and still been. And so I'm hoping to do number two with him here soon, but that's for later.
Yeah.
Um, and then this is a question that he seemed to enjoy. Do you have a favorite Coach Kohler moment? Because I mean, Kohler's been in my life since I played Little League with John. I don't know how that worked because I'm a couple years older than him. I don't know how that worked, but
Hmm.
he's always been in my life and he's known my grandparents. So uh, I don't want to call him by his first name. I'm not gonna do that. But
Hmm.
I've he's always been a funny guy, and I've known him forever, so he's always been cool. So is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that, because he's my stepdad, so it's always been money, and you know what I mean, like, and I would always have to call him Coach Kohler at the school, but it's the second I'm home, it's money. So when people say that, I'm like, no, it's just money, but I know it does ring. The name Coach rings for him. I would say my favorite Coach Kohler moment, and there's a lot because he was the head track coach my freshman year, I believe. So all the track memories were so fun. I feel like that's when he's the most loose is in that environment.
Hmm.
He's joking around, the sun's out. He's a Montana boy, so he likes being outside. But I would say it was my senior year, we were playing Blanchette, and I caught a touchdown on a backdoor post route and it was the first touchdown of the game, I want to say. And I spiked the ball right after because
Ooh.
I was Blanchette, man. It was my
Yeah.
own
Oh yeah.
school. Like I'm coming back for vengeance at their field. Like night game, first night game I think they ever had. It was lit. Their pack stand, spiked the ball, got the penalty after, and I remember I walked back on the sideline and everyone was turned up, and I knew he was gonna say something, and he just freaked out on me, and he was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, and then at the end of it, he just hugged me and was like, "Great catch, son," and I was like. It's just
Oh,
like there's no one you would rather play for than Coach Kohler in high school, at least. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was always cool, whether it was during two-a-days and hearing him yell, hearing his voice echo across the field, or just seeing him in the classroom, going and bothering his class, which shouldn't have been doing. But
Hmm.
it's he's always been a figure in my life, and he's a guy that he's done so much, and so he's always going to be somebody that I remember. So I'm gonna transfer into UW here. What how did attending the University of Washington come to fruition? Because obviously, it's the school here. I mean, Wazoo is out in Pullman, so it's a different thing. But not everybody decides, that's not for them. What pieces came together for you to attend the University of Washington?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So going into the my senior year, I thought I was gonna try to go to track for or college for track. And then I obviously played football and it was a blast. And it wasn't kind of after the season, I got first team all state, which is a cool thing, but it didn't mean much to me. And then Coach Kohler was like, do you want to take this seriously at the next level? Like, would you want to give it a shot? I never thought of it. And so I really started thinking about it. And then I was like, yeah. And so he emailed a handful of coaches. I was like this close to going down to University of San Diego and playing down there. And probably playing receiver too is what they wanted me to do. And then one Coach Gregory at UW emailed me and said, "Yeah, we love the tape. Like we could definitely see him doing an invited walk on, but he has to get into the school first." So then it was like boom. So I only applied to UW and I got
Wow.
waitlisted and like I didn't know if I was going to get in because I was on the wait list and that could go until June. And so it was like during the middle of track season. And I'm still thinking if I don't hear back about this, either I'm 100% going to USD or I'm going to go do track somewhere,
Hmm.
like late admit or something. And then I finally heard that I got in. And when I found out I got in, I emailed them and they were like, "Yep, we're like you're on the team. We're so excited." And so the rest is history. But that's how I mean, it's tricky because I get a lot of people reaching out to me on like Instagram and social media about, you were a walk on, how like what would advice would you give me? And it's tricky because it's like I have such a, unique scenario where it kind of just worked out perfectly and I'm grateful for it. But yeah, that's kind of how the whole UW thing. I never wanted to go to UW. I wanted to go school down in California. I
Hmm.
just wanted to get away from home. I know a lot of people feel the same way.
Yep.
But it just happened. I went to games as a kid. You dream of that. So I couldn't pass up on that opportunity.
Yeah, it's always something to think about. I always that's why I asked the question. Because a lot of people they either gonna go they want to get away from home, they want to go East Coast, or they want to go down to California.
Hmm.
Um, like do you know Hank Prezalensky?
Hmm.
Yeah, Big Hank went down there. I only
Hmm.
think about him because of special teams unit, but
Oh, yep.
it's when we get the sun like this in the spring, here and there with the spring. But in the summer, I'm like, damn, this is pretty nice.
Mhm.
So
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. Yeah.
uh, do you? I'm gonna continue with the coaches theme here as we talked about Kohler, Coach Peterson, and his time here. What sticks out to you the most from him? Because he's, I always heard good things about him from players, and there's always sort of a good feedback. What do you remember most from Coach Peterson? Uh, what kind of impact he left on you?
Mm. I think the first thing that comes to mind is just kind of how much respect I have for him. I think being able to, my first year was that 2016 year where they went to the playoffs and played in the Peach Bowl. And it was just like, it felt like I was watching a movie, like I was just a walk on. I knew I wasn't going to play that year, just like working out, being with the team. And it's just like, it's this movie and all these star characters, we had so many talented players. And then at the head of it all is Coach Pete. And it's like, it's his program. He runs the ship. It's just like, he's just like figure that you like, what they say about Don James and the statue and just this demeanor he had. He's the man in the stadium that eyes are on. And that's Coach Pete just owned that. And he was just such a well-rounded individual. Past, looking at him as this, crazy figure, he's just all around complete person. And there's nothing that isn't important to him about a man being a man. More than football, it's every asset of your life represents who you are. And Coach Pete totally made people into well-rounded individuals, which is such a respectable thing. And not every coach in the country is doing, not a whole lot of coaches are doing anything like that. It's just football, and there's no impact on the person's life outside of that. And so I'm so grateful for Coach Pete and all the lessons he shared with us. And he's the man for sure.
That was always, what I heard. Because when he decided to stop coaching, I was like, oh shoot, and then
Mhm.
like right after that happened, it was always, oh, he left such a big I don't remember who it was specifically, but a bunch of guys came out and said he just left such a big impact on me as a man. And I always enjoy hearing about that because like you said, some people it's just it's just the game. That's all it is. So it's always good to hear that because that's something that elevates this school, over
Mhm.
different other ones. So
Totally.
talking about the new the new guy, Coach Lake, what are your thoughts on him? How has your experience been with him? In his obviously first year with the way that things have gone, it's tough to really put a
Mhm.
year. Um, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Lake and uh, how have things been with him? And you're obviously looking towards a full slate this next year, hopefully. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, I absolutely love Coach Lake. He is the freaking man. And like you said, just a year. He's just been the head coach for a year. But yeah, I've been I would say fairly close with Coach Lake ever since I met him. My freshman year. he's just always been such a good energy. Like he brings one of the most amazing energies to, a team setting that I've seen since I've played football. And it's so cool to be able to have him at the head now and dispersing that energy everywhere. But he's just always so upbeat. He wants to compete. I think that's the one thing that Coach Lake is really impressed upon us is just competition in everything. I don't care if it's spring ball and you're competing for an actual spot or you're going up in weight during January front squatting, like you're competing with the people around you and that breeds confidence, that breeds success. And I mean, I think I like talking about kind of how he's different from Coach Pete because I think Coach Pete is kind of an overseer. He
Mm.
understands how everything flows and operates. And then Coach Lake wants to be right in there with you. Like he's the first guy giving you a high five running off the field, all that stuff. And there's just a certain energy that brings to the game that is really cool. And so I would die for Coach Lake. I'm excited to have one more year with him. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Now we're looking at. I had to ask. I remember when this happened. I remember hearing about it because I wasn't able to watch it because I had work that day. But against Arizona in that 2 point conversion, I have to ask, what's going through your head while that's happening? Kamari Pleasant scores. How does that get drawn up? Did they want to go for two initially, or what's going on? What happened in that
So
time frame?
I will never live it down. I will never live that play down. That's like the first thing. That's the first thing Coach Robert said to me when I went to practice like a couple weeks ago, and that happened. Um, yeah, so we had practiced that play. We knew we were gonna run it. We just didn't know when. And it was looking like we probably weren't gonna get a chance to run it. And then we started running it up, and my coach came out of nowhere. He's like, "Next, if we score again, we're running that play." And so I was getting all ready because it's supposed to be a throw. And so I was warming my arm up, trying to be discreet on the sideline. And then Kamari broke that long run. And usually when it's like a methodical drive and it gets down and there's a handful of plays, the coaches rethink it. Like they'll be like, nah. Like they're
Mhm.
very picky about running fakes. And for this instance, it was like, okay, we're gonna run it. They told us, and then they scored on like the next play, and they're like, "Yep, we're running it." And so we just went out there, and I took the steps I was supposed to take. Everything went smoothly, and I went to throw it, and Cade was completely covered up.
Ah, shit.
And I remember that week in practice, Coach Lake, when we were running, it came up to me. He was like, "Well, if Cade's not open," he's like, "Don't worry, he'll be open. I'm sure of it. But you're gonna just have to make an athletic play because you're an athlete." And I was like, "All right, yeah, that's enough. I got to do something." And so Cade wasn't open. I put my foot and just started going downhill. And what everyone is so confused about why I didn't dive is because I literally thought I scored. It was like I'm in.
Oh,
I thought like I saw the goal line and there wasn't anyone like right in front. So I'm like, oh, I scored. Like I'm literally in the end zone. Nothing's gonna happen. And then boop, it's a quick
yeah.
game up in the D1 level. And I was on my back and they didn't call it, and I think I got it in, but the rest is history, and we'll come back better next year.
From what I had seen when I watched the video when I got home, it looked like it crossed the goal. That cross the
Hey,
plane is from
yep.
what I've always learned watching this game for as long as I have. Well, I'm not that old, but I thought
Hey, you and
I
me
don't
both.
get paid to make those decisions though, so um, to keep with that year, I don't know. It's hard for me to say year.
Hmm.
You know, what was that whole season like? Because I'm sure, I mean, it had to have been so different than normal years with protocols, and then certain games. I don't remember where it first started, but no Apple Cup, and then
Hmm.
you don't get to play Oregon, or yeah, and just how all
Yeah,
that all changed, and then you learn there's no bowl game. Obviously I'm not harping against it because certain things happen and you got to take the right protocols, and it's better to be safe.
yeah.
But what were things like as a player throughout the year?
I would say, the first thing is it's it was kind of nice. Like I'll kind of rewind all the way to fall ball. So during the summer, it wasn't during the summer or whenever it was, but usually, there's a lot of media around that kind of stuff. There's interviews after all the practices. You got to be kind of on your tight, you know, talking about the right stuff. And it can kind of be a distraction to football. You know, they kind of sometimes they'll create narratives and you'll realize it during the interview and you'll be like, wait a second, you know, that's not a question that, you know, I want to answer or want to
Yeah.
think about. And so having none of that stuff is really nice. You know, there's not any distractions. And then that kind of leads into the season with no fans and all that stuff. You know, everyone has their own opinion on it, but the way I viewed it is less distractions. So it becomes so much more about playing the game. You know what I mean? The
Hmm.
energy levels, all of that stuff, you know, that you take for granted when you're looking at a game with fan scenario. And, you know, the funny thing for me that I found is the majority of people that were saying, like, oh, no fans, that sucks. It was like fans, you know, like my friends and
Yeah.
family who couldn't be there. But, you know, anyone who from the players, yeah, it's fun to have fans there. But when it comes down to the football, nothing changes, you know, whether there's fans or not. It's just like it allows you to focus a little bit more on the game.
Hmm.
So that was kind of the biggest interesting thing about the season. Obviously, it's disappointing. Our first game against Cal was canceled, and you're just so
Yep.
excited for that game one, and then to have that kind of be anticlimactic, that's tough. COVID is just such a weird, you know, half of our facilities are open. We're getting tested every day. It's just you felt like kind of a robot, you know, during certain periods, and you know the whole NCAA thing is a whole another conversation. And I think this year showed a lot of different light on certain characteristics that are not necessarily the best about the NCAA, but like I said, other conversation. But at the end of the day, I got to be out there with my brothers and we played 4 games, I think. And that's 4 games I'm grateful for. And I'm happy to get another year of eligibility. But there were a lot of things about this season that I'm so happy with. You know, it was a lot of time. Whether or not we're playing a full season, we were working on football that whole time, and that's always fun to be with a full group of guys for that long. So yeah, that's the COVID season for sure.
When you found out about, that another year of eligibility, was there any hesitation, or were you just like, I'm taking it?
Yeah, I was at first I was kind of confused at how it was going to work,
Yeah.
but then once I understood, I was like, oh yeah, you know, like for me, it was my first year as a starting punter, and kind of going into it knowing I was going to be the starting punter. It's just a whole different mindset. And so when I figured that out, I was like, oh, cool. This is just kind of like a practice year. Like it's like I can get, you know, I can feel it out, you know, not having to worry about because I used to punt here and there in the games, but I wouldn't know, you know, and that's a whole different mindset, just having to be prepared for something, even if it might not happen. And
Hmm.
so moving into the starting role, it was really just like, okay, cool, practice season, and then let's go unleash, you know, for the real season next year. So yeah,
Just, how that all played out with, oh, Cal's not happening. I was like, God damn, and then, I don't remember who the first game of the season was, but obviously Stanford and Arizona, Arizona obviously talked about that one, but
yep,
and then here and there's no Apple Cup. I'm like, shoot, because Apple Cup, being from around here, there's always talk about the Apple Cup.
yep,
And then there's no Oregon, and then there's no bowl game. It's like, well, shoot, because I kind of was like, damn, what's it like for those guys? Because you got to prepare still, but obviously, when you're part of that team and you spend so much time with them, it's not like, oh, I'm out here lifting weights, this is terrible. No, you're with everybody. At least that's
yep.
how I imagine it was. So it's just more time and more time working on your craft with these people that so
Mhm.
I always just wondered what's it like going on in there. So
Oh man, it's tough. Just the whole like people say that you know missing out on the game that's tough, and fans don't really understand that it's really like those rivalry games is like a whole week. You know, like we got a bunch of people ex Huskies coming in that were legends talking to us, and it's just like all those experiences. I'm lucky to have 4 or 5 good ones so far, but that's like what it's all about. And that's like the reason it's so fun to go watch those games is because of the energy that I'm just gonna say UW. I don't know about Wazoo, but just the energy that we bring to that game, to the Oregon game, it's just like it's a different game of football. It's a different level. It's like it really is. There's something in the air, and so it is tough for you know stuff like that to even without fans, you know, playing against playing at that stadium. It's just there's something to it, that I can't really explain. But
Even before everything hit, because that first game with a normal year was supposed to be Michigan,
hmm
so and do you know if because it was supposed to be a home and home series, from what I
hmm
understand, is the UW game, the game in Montlake, is that just scratched or
yeah, that's just scratch. So we
damn?
play down there next year. So yeah.
Because I was looking forward to Michigan, obviously
Oh
Jim
yeah.
Harbaugh and playing that program. But damn, so I had known about that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so let's just transition into this. Is there any game? I'm giving you a couple of questions where it's tough to just pinpoint one. Is there a game in your time at UW that was just head and shoulders above the rest? Like this is a game that I'll always remember.
Yeah, I've got two, and they're both from freshman year. And I would say the one that everyone would tell you is the Stanford game when we beat Stanford, and then I think we went into either fifth or fourth place, or Stanford was four. It was Christian McCaffrey's senior year. I forget the exact specifications of it, but that game and the fans rushed the field and we smoked them, and everyone stayed until the fourth quarter and then rushed the field. That was unbelievable. Seeing my friends on the field, it's crazy. But the most lit game, hands down for me, is the USC game that year, which we did lose, which is why no one really talks about it. But the blackout, it was a night game. SC, I think, was ranked way ahead of us at the start of the year. They had Darnold and
Yep.
Adoree Jackson, and Rossi broke off Adoree for the touchdown on the sideline. That was just the most like unbelievable atmosphere I think I've ever experienced, no matter where I'm at or what event in life. That was just like I remember looking around, being like, "This isn't real. Like this doesn't look real." In the nighttime, like you could see all the people just moving around in their seats, and then some of those night games, you look out on the field and it just seems like everything stops because the lights on the players, like it just looks like everything is slow motion. And that was one of those nights, and that's the one I think of for sure.
Yeah, that game, even though we lost it, I was at that game, and that was something else because, like you said, they had Darnold. They might have had Juju. I don't
They did.
remember.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did. Yep.
So I mean, that was a stacked team, and then we had a stacked team too. So it was some of those. You're making me remember all because I obviously haven't been down there. I'm not a player.
Mhm.
But being in the stands for some of those games, some of the atmosphere is just, you miss it. You really miss it during
Yeah.
all this. So speaking of different atmospheres, it's not necessarily, I don't know how it is to you, but the Rose Bowl,
Mhm.
with that whole experience being down in Pasadena and granddaddy of them all,
Mhm.
what was your experience like with that?
Oh, that is unbelievable. I can't believe I forgot to say the Rose Bowl, but it's tough because the game was tough, not what we wanted. You obviously want to win the Rose Bowl, and it was just an interesting game, the way it unfolded. But just that whole week, you feel like you're a celebrity. It feels like they shut the whole city down. All the events you go to. That's the thing about bowl games is you go to events throughout the week. And we were fortunate to go to some really cool ones, so we got to see kind of what's what with the bowl game stuff. And the Rose Bowl is just like a step above everything else. It's just like the meals you're getting are unbelievable. Get to go to Disneyland, all that stuff. It's just like the Rose Bowl makes you feel like a little kid again. That's what's so fun about it. You feel like a little kid just excited to play, like you're five again, until you step out on the field and you see everyone, after you warm up. It's the most beautiful field, beautiful conditions you'll ever see for a game. I'm biased, but it's facts. And then you go in the locker room and come back out and it's filled, and you just look around, and I remember just thinking like this can't be real. This doesn't look real. The ground doesn't feel real. And then the game starts and it's like boom, it's real. So lock in. And yeah, that there's something in the air at Pasadena. I don't know if you win or not, but
Oh yeah, no, I was there, and do you know it was the year that the playoff game, there was a lady who held up a sign that said "We want Bama," and that
yeah.
oh, do you know Johnny, right? Oceaner?
Yeah, I know
Yeah, it
Johnny.
was his, and I've known his mom for a bit just because I know David, his
Yep.
brother. and she was right behind me, and I went down with my father and my uncle, and I mean, at least for me being down there, it was a whole different. I was like, this is very, very different,
Yep.
And I mean, Ohio State, I mean, they've had a great program for as probably as long as they've been around,
Hmm.
and I mean, the number, the points started coming back, and then I think Miles threw a touchdown in that game. I might be wrong. I
Hmm.
think he had a trick play where he tossed one.
Yeah, he
Um,
did over the. Yeah, I remember that the jump pass.
yeah, and I mean, I remember leaving that game because it was Urban Meyer's last game, and it was all of this, but I mean, I was like, I got to go to the Rose Bowl, so I
Mhm.
still enjoyed it, and that was, uh, I'll always remember that, But so it brings me another fact because I went the next year to the Las Vegas Bowl. I'm sure things are different, but did you have was that an enjoyable experience as well? Because you're in Vegas, so
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
was that one? How was that game? I
Yeah,
mean,
that one was a lot of fun. It's a totally different bowl game, not as high of expectations or anything, but you get an awesome hotel room and on the strip, which is really cool. We stayed in oh, I'm blanking on it. Anyway, it's at the very end.
hmm,
Wow, I can't remember. Anyways, it's
does
a
it have a
super
funny
fun week.
shape?
It's like a big gold one. It's like on the
Oh
very end.
shoot, I only know like Luxor, a couple of them.
Yeah, it's right next to Luxor.
Oh shoot,
That's
okay, huh?
Oh, Mandalay Bay, Mandalay Bay.
Oh yeah, okay, I got you now.
Yeah,
I got you now.
so we got to stay there. That was a beautiful hotel room, super fun week. It's cool to, there's so many good places to eat. You check out the casinos, gamble a little bit, play some blackjack, all that. It's a really fun week. Like at the end of the day, it's super fun just being around the strip. The game. It's fun being in that weather. Obviously, anytime the sun's out, it's good. Um, and then the game was cool. It was really cool for Coach Pete to be able to play Boise State. I think it's hard to feel the history of moments when you're in the moments, but if you look back on that, that was a very, satisfying ending for Coach Pete. And I think it's kind of a storybook ending to be able, to be a part of that game and to just kind of I remember it was so fun and it was just like, yeah, it's not, as big as those other games we were playing in. Obviously, you want to, do a little better than that. But for what it's worth, once you're in the game, enjoy it, take it in, and that was a lot of fun. That was a great week.
Yeah, because I remember that and being all around the strip and seeing the Boise State jerseys or the colors, and yeah, I mean, on those bowl game experiences, I was hoping to go to one last year, but obviously, things
Mhm.
change. But bowl
Yep.
games, it's definitely cool to go and see just the surrounding area and obviously the game. But so speaking of going and traveling to these places outside of like the bowl games, because I'm sure, I'm sure the Rose Bowl takes a different precedent compared to other ones. But
Mhm.
is there an away stadium to you that you would say you enjoy the most out of any of the away stadiums that you've been to?
Mm, yeah, I would say it's tough because the Pac-12 is cool. It's a cool place to play. I gotta go with 3. I think so. My first year, I didn't travel with the team, but me and my dad went down to the Oregon game when we won 70-21. So I was at that game on the sideline, and that was my first away game in college, and that was probably
Oh,
one of the most lit games of my experience. So, and I actually grew up. Don't tell anyone this. I grew up an Oregon Duck fan. I love their jerseys. I'm
I'm gonna
sure
have
you know.
to end the call now. No, I'm terrible, terrible.
I know it's hard to say. I had to hold my tongue the other day in our facility. I was gonna say because I wore this green shirt. And anyways, that Autzen Stadium, man. I don't care where you're from or what your school is. That's an unbelievable facility altogether. The stadium is cool. The atmosphere is so cool. That and for it to be my first taste, it was just like, oh yeah, this is cool. This level of football is different, because I've seen what it's like at Husky Stadium, and now I see what it's like here, and this is gonna be sick. So that's up there, and then the next one I would say, just because it's the best place for kicking, punting, is Arizona. Unbelievable. We played, I think, later on in the season, and it was still a night game, and you're wearing shorts. I mean, and you're not wearing tights, you're not wearing anything below your pads. Like it's just smooth out there. Your muscles are warm right off the bus, you know, like you don't have to sit in the hot tub for 10 minutes before you go out there to be warm enough. And the ball just flies. It's at elevation, it's warm air. It's just like you feel, I mean, gosh, you're just lucky to be able to kick there. And then Colorado is just such a cool town. You know, the bus ride in is like a 45-minute, and you go up right
Okay.
all through the campus in the hills. It's like tucked. We played on a sunset. We played when it was dumping snow. It's just a cool environment. You feel like you're out in the wilderness playing, and it's like the stands come really close to the sideline, so you can hear all the fans. And those are my three, man. It's a lot of fun playing in the Pac-12. There's some cool places.
Oh yeah, no, it's shoot. I guess you've got a very good point with Arizona. You've got a very good point. Um,
Hmm.
and then now this is something that I'm curious to hear because I've always been a Nike person, but
Hmm.
so when things change and it's Adidas now, obviously, and I'm wearing the Adidas one, do
Hmm.
you have any preference as a player? Obviously, I'm sure it's different because you actually get the game jersey. Do you
Yeah.
have a preference between either the Nike ones or the Adidas ones,
Uh,
or
You know, I would say if I had to, I would have a preference. I like the Nike stuff a little more, but you gotta come back, you know, I gotta come back to being grateful, and everything we get is free, you know, like so I can nitpick about the gear and the way stuff fits. At the end of the day, it's free though, and I'm grateful for it. And I think that's the mindset you gotta have. And I know people like to talk about the jerseys and the different cuts and all that stuff. I think both schools do a lot of cool stuff. Adidas did some really the black jerseys we did this year. I thought were super cool. I'm starting to figure out what kind of shoes I like. It takes a while to, you know, because they've got a bunch of different models, all that
yep.
stuff. So I've got some shoes I like, which is all that matters. And then I just take what they give me. No complaints. But yeah, there's definitely differences. The Adidas jerseys were a little tight at first. I don't know if
Hmm.
you can tell when you're watching, but they're a little snug, so I had to upgrade my jersey size. But other than that, it's all fun stuff.
Um, oh shoot. Oh, so you've talked a little bit about obviously the game against USC and those blackout jerseys, and then the ones from the past year. In your time here, obviously, it's always really cool when they put the chrome domes on, or
Hmm.
the different combinations. Is there a favorite uniform that you've got?
Yeah, I would say, and this sucks because no one talks about this one either because we lost the game. But when we played down at Cal, 2019, I believe, we wore the all white with the purple chrome helmets.
Oh no,
That
yeah, those.
that was yeah, that was my favorite for sure.
It's always really cool because I mean UW can do that, and I think it's all college can. Yeah, I think all of college can mess with different helmets and different looks. NFL still got the helmet rule, which I think they might be working on this year, but I don't know, the chrome always stuck out to me. It's like, wow, you can always get really good
Oh
pictures with
yeah,
those too. But no,
super
that's
cool.
a
Yeah.
that's a good pick. You know, um, I thought the black ones were really nice. I was kind of interested to see what they did with them here, but yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. So speaking about, I don't know if this is a segue, but I mean different kind of clothing items.
Hmm.
We're gonna get into Homs, and I remember when I talked to Miles about it, he said that was Race's baby. You know, so to get into that, I want to talk about the pop up first because I think I was going to speak about it a little bit when we started, but I wanted to hold it to stay in the slate of questions I had here.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously the one on Valentine's weekend got canceled because of getting however many inches of snow we had, and you had one a little bit ago. I
Hmm.
think it was just Saturday and Sunday. What was the pop up experience like, and how did that go?
That was a lot of fun. It was really cool. You know, one of the things that is interesting for me, I feel like that not a whole lot of people know is like how I interact with people over the Homs account, especially with it being COVID and you know, everyone being on quarantine and all that stuff the last however long. You don't realize like you're talking to a bunch of these people for an extended period of time, often over social media, and you don't have a face to put to it. You don't, but you're talking about, you know, friendly stuff. Sometimes mental health discussions. You know, you're getting vulnerable with someone and transparent, and it's hard when you don't get to, you know, interact face to face. And so I think that has been interesting to then get to see some of those people at the pop-up. That was one of the most kind of cool aspects of the pop-up for me. The venue's awesome. We'll definitely be doing a few more
Okay, good.
in the future at that venue for sure. So definitely get a chance if you haven't.
That was the thing with Valentine's Day weekend because I think it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? I
Yeah.
was gonna go on Friday, and then I saw the snow. I was like,
Okay.
ah, shoot. And I work on
Yeah.
weekends, so I was like, I was gonna go in before Friday. I was like,
Um,
ah, damn. So missed out on that, but that's what I
yeah.
was gonna. You answered it already. Doing more there. Uh, I that it's a good point because, like you said, you get so used to doing things through the phone, or just over these accounts. Um, but then to just say, oh, you're whatever, and uh, that definitely makes sense. And it's I got if you ever, I mean, I follow the account, so I'll know when that
Mhm.
happens, but that's definitely pretty good. Do you have a you've already worked with? I mean, you already mentioned you want to continue to work at that venue. Is there any other place you want to or have been talked with about doing it elsewhere or
Yeah, I think, the cool thing about clothes is you can kind of plug it in anywhere. And so I've had a couple stores around the Seattle area reach out to me about, maybe selling some stuff. So that's wholesale pricing is a whole different conversation. So I'd have
Mhm.
to kind of verse myself in that stuff before I got into that. Obviously, like Nordstrom would be kind of a pie in the sky. So cool if we could do it. That's a little more down the road. I know you got to have bigger quantities to be able to do that. But yeah, just any, like the Fremont market, I think is really cool. The Ballard market. Anytime you get a chance to, if it's just like a 1 day kind of thing, it's fun to go out and do that stuff. You
Oh
just
yeah.
make, I love playing around with the clothing side of it. So like if I get a little opportunity like that, I'll do stuff that is only available at that market. I think it's cool for the people that come across it. It gives them a reason to kind of, oh, maybe I should get this. Like that's kind of cool. No one else that doesn't come here is going to get a chance to get it. You know, all the streetwear brands that are, successful do stuff like that, make people feel like that. And I think that's a super fun element of the brand is because it builds customer loyalty. It builds kind of that community because everyone feels a little more special about the hoodie they got. So that's a super fun side of the pop-ups for me. And that's why no matter where it is, I'm always down for pop-ups. And I think there's a lot of cool venues around Seattle. And then obviously COVID has put a trump on some of that stuff, but moving forward, it'll be a lot of fun.
So you kind of talked about, design and having stuff that's exclusive to, like you said, a certain pop-up. Is there a favorite design that you've worked on to this point? Is there something that's like, hey, this is like my pride and joy until this point? Or is it kind of like this is, you just kind of enjoy what you work with in general?
Yeah. Man, that is tough. There's a lot. I would say obviously the phases design is my favorite. That's just the bread and butter of Hans. The first logo I ever drew was on a piece of notebook paper, and that's kind of what I roll with. That's the profile picture for Hans on Instagram, which is kind of it's got a soft spot. My sister gave me the
Oh,
idea for the design, so that's kind of fun. Um, but I would say in terms of from like the design standpoint, going beyond just the design, I've started working with manufacturers in Pakistan who take the product all the way down to scratch. And so I would
oh
say
wow.
like getting beyond just like something you design on an iPad and then slap on a t-shirt, being able to design a product from scratch has been, I've gotten, one shipment of samples. I'm working on the second right now. That has a special place in my, kind of design realm so far. It's just like down to the, the zipper and the little thing that hangs off the zipper and the inside of the jacket, things that are overlooked. I think from a designer standpoint, those are the things that are most fun to design. So definitely, yeah.
You kind of talked about, well, no, you haven't really talked about it. Talked about working with somebody, but for wholesale. But in terms of like product, right? Do you have like a collaboration that you don't have right now? Because I know you've got. I am sorry for forgetting who it was, but you've got a partnership of sorts with somebody in jewelry. I remember.
Mhm, Allison
Um,
Clare, yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that's like you'd really like to work with for Homs or anything that's in the
Um,
works?
Definitely, I think one of the ones that's in the workings right now is, I've got his painting back there. So a guy by the name of Crick Dozer, he owns Dozer's Warehouse Gallery. I'm sure you've seen, we did a couple photo shoots or one photo shoot there. Hopefully, do a couple more. He's the man. He's unbelievable, and I think I was telling Miles this because he met him. He's good friends with him as well. We both bought some pieces from him. Um, Anytime someone like that, he's a genuine artist. He's 100% through and through a real artist. His work is around the city. That's real art. I'm able to do stuff on my iPad. I'm decent at drawing, but he is a thoroughbred. And anytime you get to work with someone like that or the opportunity comes up, you got to take it. And that's been so awesome for me. We're working on a collab right now. It's a couple simple hoodies, but they'll be really cool. So that's definitely something in the works. And then I would say, long term, there's a lot of companies that will be a dream come true, and that's kind of stuff I'm not going to say I keep to myself, but it's just like there's certain things that I can envision. I feel like I'm the only one right now, but I'm excited for a lot of collabs in the future. I'm always down. I'm not always down to do a collab, but I'm always down to entertain a collab.
Hmm.
I'll hear an idea or, but I think the cool part of collabs is taking two really cool things and putting them together.
Yep.
And I think not too often, but there's a lot of times where someone might be collabing for the wrong reasons, or it's not the right image for both of them to do it. And I think that's what it comes down to, is just making sure it's like really, really cool brands and two cool messages and all that stuff coming together.
Is there anything that you want to sort of tease that's coming up in any time soon, or is everything you're trying to keep it a little bit hush hush?
No, I love talking about it. I would say I'm kind of hush hush, but general idea right now, I'm working on outerwear. I love puffy jackets. I'm working on those. I think they're great for Seattle. All my friends from Cali come up here and they're always cold. I'm like, well, get a puffy jacket and you won't be cold. So I'm working on those right now. I got a really cool batch coming in, working on couple different zip ups. Like I said, outerwear from scratch. So it's going to be totally unique, cool stuff. And then I'm working on a winter capsule for next year. So winter 2021, I believe. And that's going to be like a whole capsule of different outerwear
Hmm.
jackets. I've been drawing a lot of inspiration from like Nike Tech Fleece. So working on kind of athletic outerwear,
Hmm.
stuff that fits all my friends on the football team, bigger guys. So that's kind of been a fun thing with the manufacturing side, is to work on fitting and how stuff kind of wears. So yeah, other than that, just kind of some new colorways and it'll pop up randomly, which I think is a lot of fun.
It's always, I mean, I've seen it. I think you've seen me comment on it with the jackets, the
Mhm.
puffy jackets. I mean, if you go to a day in the middle of winter, there's one classroom is at least filled with 75% puffy jackets.
Yep.
This is how it is. So I think that'll hit a home run there. But it's always really cool to see what you're working on. You kind of tease it a little bit. I'm like, oh damn, the jackets. I was like, damn. And even the stuff like you mentioned with the exclusive pop-ups. I'm like, why am I stuck at work right now? And I remember because I got the Kobe one when it dropped.
Hmm.
And I was wearing it one day and it was like just a completely purple and sort of gold thing. And somebody asked me, goes, "Hey, that's really cool. Where'd you get it?" And I was like, I can tell them where they got it. It's not like this, as much as the brands are cool and all the other ones like Adidas is, that's fine. But being able to someone with a story, like when I was doing my research for this, for speaking with you and even Miles a little bit, because I know he's got some input here and there. I don't know how much input he's got, but you know, the stories with King Five Evening and Seattle Times, I didn't think about it until then, but reading that and thinking about how it came to be, and it's something that I thought about and I was like, hey, I've thought about this kind of stuff sometimes. It's like, hey, if I'm not feeling the best someday, sometimes I am feeling. So
Hmm.
at least in that regard, I was like, hey, this is it resonated with me to end my rambling. It's just really cool, and I'll have it linked here. But I like what you're doing. I like what you're working with, and it's always just really cool to support, like we talked about with O'Day, just to continue to support and see what's going on. And I'm gonna get myself out to one of those pop-ups. I got to make myself out there. So
Definitely.
is there anything that you'd like to promote here? Obviously, we've kind of talked about Homs here, but if you want to put out the website or the social media, just this is your
Yeah,
profile.
super easy, just HOMS, and then Seattle for the website and Instagram. But I'd say like if I wanted to promote something, it's stuff that's in the works beyond the clothing. So I've been working really hard on a charitable element to have attached to HOM. So obviously we did donate a portion of our proceeds to NAMI Seattle,
Yep.
which is an awesome mental illness organization over in Ballard. There's the Seattle branch, and then I've got a bunch of cool ideas for how we can integrate other organizations and be able to help people. And I've got some cool ideas for like I said, they're still in the workings. There's just so many moving parts that go into that kind of stuff. I'm sure, as you can imagine, but especially when I don't have my full time to be able to dedicate to these kind of decisions and stuff like that, it's hard. And so when I get some time, there will be a lot of cool charitable aspects of HOMS coming in the future, which I'm really excited about. And I'll just need some time to develop.
Oh
But
yeah, and I mean, like we said, you're busy, so to be able to sort of juggle these things is, I'd say it's not short of anything short of impressive. So I want to thank you for your time. We go from, oops, wrong side, O'Day to UW, and
Mhm.
just it's always really cool to talk to O'Day
Oof.
guys.
Yep.
Uh, just because with some interviews I kind of get nervous. I'm like, okay, I'm talking to so and so, but with you and Miles, it was like, hey, I don't know, just it just felt more like a conversation.
Oh yeah,
So
totally.
definitely appreciate it. Race Porter, I will link. Oops, wrong side again. I will link everything in the description for the video of this. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, man.